O'Reilly Auto Parts. For all your car care needs, you can get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better parts, better prices every day. Is Russell Wilson lying to us? Does Russell Wilson just misremember things? Or is Russell Wilson just a phony? That's the question I have for you. So yesterday, Russell Wilson met the media for the first time since his agent put it out there that there are 4 teams he would accept a trade to, and that tensions between Seattle and Russ are in a bad spot, and could Russ be traded? Remember, the Bears called the Seahawks, and they made this king offer that Seattle declined. Remember all that? Well, according to Russell Wilson, it was all just a giant misunderstanding. This was Russ yesterday when asked point blank if he requested a trade from Seattle.
There's a lot of teams out there that people were saying that I was going to or would go to. I requested a trade. I did not request a trade. I've always wanted to play here, and the reality is, I think calls were getting thrown around and this and that, and I think that's just a reality. But I think at the end of the day, the real reality is that I'm here, and I'm here to win. I'm here to win it all.
What a spin zone. The real reality is I'm here. You're here because the team didn't want to trade you. You didn't request a trade, but then your agent put out a list of teams you'd go to. And then Russ said yesterday that those teams were right. That was accurate. Your agent's not putting something out there if it doesn't come from you. So maybe technically Russell Wilson didn't say, I want to trade, and say that, he didn't say that personally to John Schneider, the GM, or Pete Carroll, the head coach. But does Russell Wilson think we're idiots? Like, come on. Russ, come back to us, buddy. What are we doing here? It's just these guys will say anything, man. And I get it. Russell Wilson's going to go out there and he's not going to be like, I did, but I'm here now. But, can we come up with a better answer than that? He's kind of a phony. And I loved Russ. I still like him as a player, but, man, it's tough to root for these guys when they're such divas. Like calling out your offensive line, and then when asked about it, he's like goo-goo gaga about his O-line. Oh, Dwayne Brown's one of my best friends. You basically said they all stink. I don't want to cheat on my wife, but if I do, here are the 4 women I would cheat with. It's kind of what Russ did with his, I don't want to be traded, but if I am traded, hey, Dallas, Oakland, and, the other teams on this list. It was Dallas, it was Oakland, it was Chicago, and there was one other team I'm missing. Kevin, who's from Chicago, I'm sure when he saw the Bears on that list, was like, oh, Russ.
No, because I knew there was nothing to it. I mean, first of all, the Bears aren't capable of making a good trade with Ryan Pace at the helm. And I just never bought the idea of Seattle getting rid of Russell Wilson. It would just make no sense for them. He's not the guy that's going to force a move. And, he's obviously already backtracking on all that. So
awful. Just awful. This was Russell Wilson when asked about his relationship with the fans, Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and the city of Seattle.
Well, I think first of all, obviously I love Seattle. I love playing here. I've had a great career here so far. I've always wanted to play here for my whole career. Obviously, I think there were some, unfortunate frustrations after the season. Obviously, you want to win it all and do everything you can, and I think everybody on our team does. We all want to win it.
We all want to win it. Man, Russell Wilson's just straight up lying to us. He is. Now, I understand part of his frustration is it's right after the season and whatnot, but Russell Wilson's supposed to have this clean, pristine image. And he's trashing his offensive line. He's using the media availability after winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year to go and trash the players on his team. I mean, that just didn't sit right with me. I guess Seahawks fans will get over it because obviously he's still a great quarterback and they need him to win, but that would rub me the long way. What's stopping Russ from doing this whole charade again if they get bounced, wild card weekend once again? Where they come up short of winning the Super Bowl. Who's Russ then going to blame? I think this situation's still ongoing. I don't think for a second it's all goo-goo gaga with Russ in Seattle once again. Things could change on a dime here. So I'll look out for that. I think things are good for now. But for how much longer? To be determined. UFC 263 is tonight. Let's talk about it next with a UFC insider. He'll tell you who you should bet on to win on the card.
O'Reilly.
Ready for an oil change? The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are here to help. We'll make sure you have all the supplies you need to make the job quick and easy. Right now, get 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for just $28.95. Plus, get a $10 gift card after mail-in rebate. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Do you know 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports lose? Is it really that surprising? The game is rigged against you. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention experts who have more tools and more time. You don't stand a chance. Introducing the first ever daily fantasy sports book, Stat Hero. Stat Hero puts the player in control and winning within reach. Here's how it works. Stat Hero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. You name your stakes, winner take all. You have the advantage. Stat Hero is showing you their lineups ahead of time. No one else does that. You're in total control. Stat Hero is daily fantasy sports the way it was meant to be. One-on-one. Go to stathero.com/map. Sign up for free, and right now you can get 3 times back on your first play. They're giving you a 300% match. Go to stathero.com/map. stathero.com/map. Restrictions apply. See stathero.com for details.
I'm Dr. Andrea Russo, a cardiologist. Maybe you're waiting to talk to your doctor right now. But if you're having an irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, don't wait. This could be a serious condition like atrial fibrillation, which can make you about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you're having these symptoms, don't wait. Talk to a doctor by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Auto Accident Help Desk is a marketing agency connecting callers with attorneys. Providers pay a fee for advertising services.
I love getting my kids ready and driving them to school.
But a careless driver can change your life in an instant, and insurance companies want to settle on the cheap. Auto Accident Help Desk connects victims with powerful lawyers. They fight for you.
I called Auto Accident Help Desk and got help for my pain and suffering.
Don't let an insurance company take advantage of you. Our attorneys fight and beat big insurance every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859.
If you've been injured in an automobile accident in the last 6 months, you owe it to yourself to make this free call with no obligation. We're available 24/7 to help you get the money you deserve for your pain and suffering. Auto Accident Help Desk helps accident victims like you every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859. That's 800-528-6859.
Welcome back to the Jake Asman Show on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage. Need a mortgage that fits your life? Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Let's talk some UFC. Big pay-per-view card tonight, UFC 263. And to break it all down for us, provide some picks and so much more, we go out to our progressive guest line. Right now, we bring on a good friend of the show, Daniel Yanofsky, who covers MMA for Fightful MMA. Daniel, appreciate the time, my man. Hope all is well, and thanks for being back with us.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to talk MMA, boxing, and all the above with you, an Ithaca alum like myself.
There we go. Go Bombers. So, Dan, let me start with the card tonight. You can take us wherever you want. What to you is the biggest storyline you're watching here?
I'm looking at the flyweight title fight between Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. If not for Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk last year, that would have been the fight of the year for me. You have to see how Figueiredo is feeling, especially after the past few days of being aggressive towards Moreno. I think that's definitely an interesting matchup to make. I still think that the champion takes home the win, but you have to think about just what their mindset of both fighters are going to be after their great fight last time out. And I think that's going to be your fight of the night. If not that, Lauren Murphy versus Joanne Calderwood on the prelim card for the flyweight division. I definitely think that both flyweight fights are going to be one to watch. You also have to keep an eye on Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, seeing how Nate Diaz has performed after not fighting since 2019, and Edwards, who had that long layoff and then fought Bilal Muhammad not that long ago.
Daniel, you mentioned Nate Diaz being back, and obviously, if you're an MMA fan, that's huge. People love watching this guy fight. What could be expected from him, though? No one's seen him in a while now. How do you expect him to go out there and perform later?
This is the most fascinating matchup to me, just based off of the fact that Nate hasn't fought in a while, and his strategy is always hit and try not to get hit. He said in an interview, like as a joke, like, not get hit him back, get money afterwards. That's the basis of what Nate Diaz has been for years. Now you go off against someone like Leon Edwards, who is one of the top fighters in the world today, but doesn't get his just due, and he has a less advantage in strikes compared to Nate, which is fascinating when you really think about it. And when you think of this at the end of the day, Nate Diaz can get the win. Should he really have the ultimate advantage? I would say no, but stranger things have happened in MMA, and I just want to see if he's going to be a greater version of himself than he was, say, against Jorge Masvidal, because that was not the Nate Diaz that we're used to.
If Nate Diaz wins tonight, Daniel, I mean, what does the UFC do with him? Could we get maybe a McGregor and Diaz trilogy fight down the line? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. What would you do if Diaz looks good tonight, he wins, and then you're trying to find the next matchup for him?
Well, there are rumors that the winner of Diaz-Edwards could get the winner of Covington versus Usman 2 for the welterweight title. That would be interesting just for Nate Diaz's aspect of being 2-2 in his last 4 if he was to get the win. If Leon Edwards wins, he should get that title shot. If Diaz wins, you either give him the title shot or see what happens with Conor McGregor. If he loses to Dustin Poirier this summer, then you could potentially match him up with Conor. Or the ideal situation is Conor wins, you have him face Nate for the third fight, and then the winner of that gets the title shot, because Conor always wants the title no matter what. Nate Diaz has 2 options if he wins this fight, and both aren't bad. I would assume he'd go for the money fight over the title fight. Daniel
Yanofsky, Fightful MMA, covers of course, UFC and combat sports in general as we talk UFC 263. Let's talk about the main event, 125 pounds, flyweight championship, the middleweight championship, 185 pounds. That is Israel Adesanya against the Italian Dream, Marvin Vettori. This matchup here, a lot of people, of course, love Vettori's game and think maybe he could challenge Adesanya. Break this down for us. Would you pick Vettori here, or do you think Adesanya is just too dominant to lose?
I still think Adesanya can win this fight. The only issue I have is his stamina or his mentality coming off of his light heavyweight title fight against Jan Blachowicz. And coming down a weight or up a weight is always difficult, especially if you're already a champion in another division. We saw this last night at Bellator 260. Douglas Lima, who went for the middleweight championship and lost to Gegard Mousasi back in October 2020, and just got kind of manhandled by Yaroslav Amosov last night and lost the welterweight title for the third time. So I think it's going to be very interesting how Adesanya's mindset is going to be. Now, Vettori has a bigger advantage in strike accuracy and majority of advantage on the feet. But when you talk about Adesanya, he's known to adapt to any situation. We've seen he can pace the fight based off of his opponent. I think at the end of the day, he plays well with Vettori and gets the win again. It's just going to be much more difficult than others think it's going to be.
I know a lot of people, Dana White included, by the way, are very high on Vettori. This is probably going to be a lot of people's first opportunity, maybe the casual fight fan, watching him on this pay-per-view, headlining, co-headlining a main event fight. What is it about him that has allowed him to have so much success? Stylistically, what do you think he'll try and do against Adesanya?
Well, when you look at Vettori, his takedown accuracy, 53%, submission average, 0.8, and that's pretty greater than Adesanya's 0.3% submission average. And you have his significant strikes landed per minute, 4.14. He's a striker, but he can also get you on the ground and submit you. Past few fights, he's won via decision, but he is also known for his rear naked choke moves. He's also known for his guillotines. He has a streak of being slippery and very resourceful with all of his skills. Now, at the end of the day, his opponents compared to Adesanya were questionable. You could say, like his last one against Kevin Holland. Holland wasn't as resourceful as he was in 2020, where he was the MVP really of the COVID era of the UFC. Is not for Davidson Figueiredo. I think that Vettori's overall skills on the floor and his overall skills, you could say, absorbing enough damage can be enough for him to pull off an upset. But I still cannot see him taking on the win. I would keep an eye on him, though, because you never know, especially, like I said, when Israel Adesanya moves weight divisions. It's something to keep in mind.
Flyweight champion. You mentioned it before, Daniel. Let's go more in depth on it. The UFC Flyweight Championship. And break this down for us. Handicap it. Who you have and why here?
I have Figueiredo against beating Moreno. I still see it go decision, perhaps a split decision here. I think that both fighters are ready to go. Brandon Moreno is just an incredible athlete. Nobody really, if I remember correctly, gave him a shot against Figueiredo. Meanwhile, he has a 2.01 takedown advantage compared to Figueiredo's 1.57. But Figueiredo is right even with him on striking, and he can absorb a little bit more damage than Moreno in this sense. The odds are in Figueiredo's favor, and I can understand why, especially when his striking capabilities are double what you could say of Moreno in his past few fights. Has he had issues with weight in the past? Sure. But we've seen before that has not affected his overall ability, as we've seen with Joseph Benavidez twice and Alex Perez. I think that Moreno can still give him the ultimate challenge, but you could still see Figueiredo's hand being raised by the end of the night.
Daniel Yanofsky with us here. You can follow him on Twitter, and I encourage you to do just that. He's on Twitter at Dan Yanofsky MMA. Daniel, looking ahead, what should the UFC fan expect at some of the upcoming pay-per-views going forward? We know McGregor's fighting July 10th. I think that's the next massive fight every fight fan is going to be tuned in for. But what are some of the matchups you're looking to see Dana White and company make going forward?
Well, I'm always interested in seeing what Amanda Nunes is doing. She's one of the best fighters I've ever seen, really. And she's facing Juliana Pena predictably by August 7th. And I think that could be a great matchup for her. Pena wanted the fight, so we'll see how Nunes at bantamweight does again after being in the featherweight division. You also have just a few matchups coming up with the light heavyweight title fight between Glover Teixeira, who should have been the contender before Israel Adesanya, versus John Blachowicz. And then you have the heavyweight title scene. We don't know what's going to happen with Steve Miocic down the line, but we know that Francis Ngannou is going to face Derek Lewis. That's something to look out for. But by looking at this card, and only really at this card, it's the winners of this matchup could end up facing significant opponents. You have Israel Adesanya facing Robert Whittaker, who was a former champion, and if he beats Vettori, it could be a great shot for Whittaker to get that title shot. And Figueiredo, it's hard to see who he faces after Moreno. And Lauren Murphy could be next for the UFC Flyweight Championship if she beats Joanne Calderwood here, who's owned by Valentina Shevchenko, who's a monster.
Daniel, you were at the Mayweather-Paul spectacle, whatever we're going to call it, last week. I'm curious, your take on the experience. What did you make of it? And what are your thoughts on Logan Paul being able to now say he went 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather and did not get knocked out?
I'm going to say that Lamar Odom and Aaron Carter from last night was much more competitive based off of overall skills and capabilities. Logan Paul, I give him absolute credit for going 8 rounds with Floyd. Yeah, Floyd could have possibly let it go that long, but he did hit him with some solid shots, and credit to Logan Paul for absorbing those shots, especially since he didn't have any moves of his own. He only landed 28 punches of 217. Mayweather landed 43 of 107. CompuBox says that Paul didn't land more than 5 punches in any round. It's just really, it's a spectacle. It's something that you could say, I saw Floyd Mayweather fight and I saw the Paul fight. The real fight to make would be Floyd versus Jake Paul, because Floyd says he's not going to do any more exhibition bouts or any fights anymore. Do we believe him? I surely don't, especially if there's money. He's all about making the money. He even said that himself. Logan Paul, credit to him. Jake Paul is the true fighter in that family, and that's no discredit to him. It was a great night for entertainment value overall, and 1 million pay-per-view buys isn't that bad.
Okay, so great night for entertainment, but is it a good night for boxing? A lot of boxing purists are very divided on the issue, Daniel. You cover MMA, you cover boxing, you've covered a lot of these, mega celebrity fights. Is Logan Paul, the Paul brothers, are they good for the sport of boxing?
I recall when I was on here last, we talked about how the Paul brothers were, in a sense, good for the sport. I think that boxing can, in its own way, with multiple titles, multiple times where you've seen fights not taking place. These fights prove that you can make the fights happen. They've taken advantage of a broken system in boxing. Now, do I think that these celebrities being in the sport is beneficial? No, I think that they have proven a point that they can do whatever they want, and boxing really needs to step up their game. I think that Jake Paul definitely can change up the boxing game, especially if he continues what he's doing, has a deal with Showtime, gives them enough money, and if you get enough of an audience, you can actually promote your fighters. You can promote the top-heavy individuals who are out there in the sport. Can it last? It's hard to tell, but the money is there. And so people are going to take advantage of that every single time. You can complain about it, but it's inevitable, and it makes all the sense in the world to keep going at a certain degree.
Daniel Yanofsky has been our guest. You can read his work, FightfulMMA.com, talking all things UFC 263, Mayweather and Paul, all that and much more. Dan, appreciate your time as always, my man. Enjoy the card tonight. We'll talk soon.
Thanks again for having me. Enjoy the fight.
Daniel Yanofsky joining us there talking UFC 263 tonight out in Arizona, as the UFC has a sold-out arena and a stacked pay-per-view card. We'll take a quick break, wrap up hour 2 of 3. This is the Jake Asman Show with you on a Saturday here on Sports Map Radio.